I don't know what the deal is, but it was just amazing this morning. And what a message this guy. If he doesn't make it in coaching, he can come be a preacher at Free Chapel. I'll tell you that.
Go Mark Richt.
It was phenomenal. Head coach of University of Georgia since 2001. He has the SEC Coach of the Year in 2002, 2005. One of only 6 coaches in history to win 2 SEC championships. His first 5 years, one of only 5 head coaches in SEC history to record 4 straight 10-win seasons. Mark and his wife, Catherine, are here today, and they have 4 beautiful children. And would you give them a warm bulldog?
Yes, Lord. Yes. Woo! Woo! Yeah. All right. Mark Richt.
Marking in the house.
Yeah.
How you doing? Like these orange chairs up here.
Wait, I didn't catch that. No, it's offensive.
Georgia peach.
The Georgia peach. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. He's very good.
That's a great point. Thank you for coming. We really enjoyed having you this morning. And as you know, we just came out of a great marriage conference. You guys have been married how long? Coach?
26 years almost.
Attaboy.
March 14th. March 14th is 26 years.
Catherine, how did y'all meet? How did you guys?
It was a blind date. It was a blind date, and for real, and it worked. It was good. He didn't get it for a little while, but I hung in there, and eventually God, brought him to his senses.
Well, the thing that really was good is in the very beginning, we became friends. Really, she became a very good friend of mine, and not thinking I was going to marry her, I told her everything. Everything. You get your college buddies come visit you ever, and they want to tell a story on you. Well, I had some guys come and want to tell a story, and I'm like, go ahead.
I knew it all.
I said, he goes, well, what about this one? I go, yeah, she knows that one too. So what happened was, she knew everything about me, good and mostly bad, and she liked me anyway. And then when we both, she says she fell in love with me first, but I don't know about that. But when I did come to my senses and fell in love with Catherine, then it was really neat to have a relationship where we were very dear friends before we became intimate.
I would be terrified, to be honest, if I were, after being married to my wife for 26 years, to be single right now. Because now you're Coach Rick, but there's something beautiful about, when you guys fell in love and got married, you probably didn't have a lot, you probably couldn't offer a lot, but to go through that, you've had some major changes in your lives the last few years. I mean, to be where you are in life. Kind of tell us what that's been like, the journey.
Well, we actually, at one time, we lived in my parents' basement when we had our first child, John. And we lived there for about 2 years. And then we moved right across the street in the old football dorms from Florida State University. And we lived in a 1-bedroom condo, and John got the bedroom. And Mark and I had a pull-out couch, and we would pull the mattress off the couch and put it on the floor. And that was like one of our best places. We loved that place.
I'll say this too, when you talk about not having a lot to give. And it's funny how we're talking about FCA today, but we went to a banquet, an FCA banquet, locally in Tallahassee. And we were very young in our marriage, very young in our income. And somewhere along the way, we decided after that banquet we were going to give $100 a month to FCA. And we started, I don't even remember, very, very early in our marriage. And we just believed in it so much, and we just kept giving as time went on.
That's awesome. And my point in that is, when we start out and fall in love with one another, it has nothing to do with the stuff. But then you see an economy come like we've been in, and so many marriages start disintegrating because they lose the house, or they lost the great job, or the great car, and all of that. And yet when we start out in love, it hasn't. I didn't have anything to offer Sharice. I mean, it was nothing but love. And if we could somehow keep that, that kind of love. I think about you guys and the pressure and the balancing that you have to do sometimes. I'm sure everywhere you go, people know you. And then there's the pressure of the team and winning. And have you learned some things about living with him concerning when to approach him, when not to approach him? Has timing got anything to do with a successful marriage?
Well, sure. Timing is good, and I believe God's timing is perfect. And if I choose to wait to when God, gives me the go-ahead, then that's always the perfect time. But sometimes I don't always wait. But to Mark's credit, he has always, put God first and then the family. So, and what I mean by that is if there's ever anything on my heart that I think can't, wait or anything, he hears me. So it's not like, don't worry, I'm not going down in the middle of the Florida game to tell him anything, okay? I'm not going out there, I'm not going anything like that, so y'all don't get concerned. But I'm just saying that if there's something that I need to tell him, then I can tell him, and I have that comfort in knowing that he will receive it.
I don't think there's been a time where she called out or cried out that I didn't drop everything and go.
That's good.
But like she never has asked in the middle of a game, though. I will say that. So, but gosh, I remember one time when David here you found him in the swimming pool. Couldn't find him. Searched the house, thinking, where in the world is this little kid? I don't even know how old he was. And
he was still in diapers, so he was probably 1.5.
Yeah, he was floating in the pool, laying on his back. I don't know how, about a foot underwater with his eyes open. And somehow, this sweet little boy, he's a sweet big boy now, but he didn't drown. But she was shook, and I remember leaving and going to the hospital or the doctors, and he was fine. It was a miracle that he was fine. But of course, that's very drastic. There are other things that have happened, and she just says, "I need help right now."
What role has your faith played in your home and your family? You guys have stayed together for 26 plus years. Your 4 kids. And how do you do faith? I mean, do you have a local church that you go to, or do you have devotions as a family?
Well, we do that. We try to meet in the morning every day. When kids are smaller, if they go to bed at 8 or whatever it is, they don't know if you stay up till 9 and go to bed, or they don't know if you stay up till midnight and work. So the morning time was the time that we try to have together every day for breakfast. And we'd have a little devotional. We'd pray for people that had written us Christmas cards. And then I would drive the kids to school every day, and then I would go into work and start the job. And that was something that Coach Bowden had done at Florida State. He wanted to make sure that we could keep our families intact. We'd have family nights, and families are always welcome to come to practice, and our kids could be at bowl games and all that kind of thing. But we always wanted to make sure family was at the heart of everything. And like my coaching staff today, if they got something going on with their child's got something important, a recital or anything. One of our coaches' daughters has leukemia, and Coach Alvadotti's daughter, and Case and Grace. And I can't tell how many times he just had to get up and go help Mama or go to the hospital in Atlanta and take care of her. But we're not docking his pay, and we're not looking at him sideways. I mean, he's got to do what he's got to do as a father.
I think another thing, like that morning time or that family devotion, it's not how long you do it. It can be 5 minutes. It's just acknowledging God in your home and your relationship. But the other thing that I noticed and I thought about, especially after the first service, is how you include your family in what you do. Most coaches' wife would be up in the box somewhere during the game in an air-conditioned setting, enjoying themselves. But you're down on the field as a water girl. How did serving water to the football players?
Well, it happened. Oh gosh, it happened because when our kids were younger, we were at practice a lot. We would go to practice, and I knew the players. So after a game, I knew who to say good job to. I knew who to encourage if what didn't go so well, and I knew things to say. But then it got to be when our kids were doing their things and I was doing that, we weren't going to practice. So after a game, I would stand there and I'd just look at them and I'd be like, oh my gosh, who is it? Because they don't have on their jersey that has their number or their name, and I just look at their face and I was getting lost. So I just told Mark, when I traveled with him, I didn't have anybody to sit with sometimes, and so I just said, hey, would it be okay if I just went and I promise I'll stay behind the table. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm not going to come out there and try to tell you what to do on third down and long. I promise.
That, by the way, is why my son John didn't play at Georgia. I didn't want the water girl to tell me who to play.
Only if he was the best one. Anyways, so that's why I did it, and I do it now so that I can see them. They walk by me. They don't necessarily come to the table. Some of them do, but they walk by, and I can see their jersey and their number, and I can see their face under their helmet. And so after the game, I know what to say and how to encourage or be there for them.
By the way, on a side note, she doesn't just show up at kickoff and start pouring water. She shows up before I go to the office. She's there with the rest of the trainers and mixing up the Powerade and just doing the setup and everything. She's really
special
involved in
formula.
Yeah, she does like to make some nice mixtures to make a difference. So.
Well, we appreciate you being here today, and I know you got some more family here today. If you'd like to introduce your son and his special friends.
I would love to. Our son David is here today. You're going to get to hear from him a little bit later. But he brought along, and sometimes she doesn't get recognized, but this is his girlfriend, Candace O'Neill, and they've been dating since they were in 9th grade, and they are both seniors at Prince Avenue this year.
What David come and sing, and then we can't wait. I'm telling you, this guy's got something to say today that's you're going to be able to take it home and live off of it, because it's the truth. Thank you for being here. We're delighted you.
Let's welcome David. Please. Thank you.
Well, good morning. As they said, my name is David, and I really love to sing. He's a football coach and stuff. You think I play sports, but actually, I love to sing. And actually, I've written a song. It's an original song called Heaven. And what this song really means to me is that sometimes we feel like we're down here and God's way up there, and we feel like He doesn't understand our struggles and that He doesn't understand what we're going through, but the honest truth is that He's right there with us every step of the way. So I hope you'll enjoy this. I see the light, I see the truth. I know that there's a part of me with you. I'll watch the world fall out of place, but still I see your grace. Heaven isn't too far, there's not a day without you in it. I believe in love and heart and the power of forgiveness. Even when the rain falls, I can hear your voice calling out to me. There's not a day without you in it. Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's dark and my faith is weak. I don't feel strong enough, but I believe there's more to life than words can say. I look and find your face. Heaven isn't too far, there's not a day without you in it. I believe in love and heart power of forgiveness. Even when the rain falls, I can hear your voice calling out to me. There's not a day without you in it. I believe in love, yeah. I believe, yeah. Ooh. Heaven isn't too far. There's not a day without you in it. I believe in love and heart and the power of forgiveness. Even when the rain falls, I can hear your voice calling out to me. There's not a day. There's not a day. There's not a day without you in it. Oh.
Thank you, Jesus. I love you, Lord.
It's bad. I get choked up
Bless him,
when I
Lord.
hear him sing. A lot of times, and I might not be able to get this out or not, but a lot of times I do work late, and we don't get to see each other much. And over the years, we've got a little room in the back of the house. It's the music room. There's a piano that Catherine's grandmother gave her because she was the only one that took lessons long enough to get it, but the grandchildren. But sometimes I get home 10, 11, whatever it is, and old David, he'll be up, kind of waiting for me. And or maybe that's when he always would practice, but he would, Catherine put a lounge chair in there, and I'd sit in that lounge chair and just kind of lean back, and David would just play and sing, and he just blesses me. Of course, all our children bless me, but it's pretty awesome to have a young man who loves Jesus so much and has a gift and wants to use his gift for the Lord. I'll say this too. He's not perfect. I mean, none of us are. None of our kids are. Believe me. And I think parents take way too much credit sometimes, don't we, when our kids do good, and then we certainly take probably too much blame when they don't do very well. And, so it's not really cause and effect. Just because we think we're doing it just right doesn't guarantee anything. And just because we make some dumb mistakes doesn't mean we've blown it either. So I know that's true. Well, anyway, this is a very cool place. Okay, this is my first time I've been here, and I'm so impressed, Pastor. You guys can applaud yourself along the way. Man, this is good. I've heard a lot about this church for a long time, and heard a lot of great things about it, but I never came. And we're members of Prince Avenue Baptist in town, and that's what the school is, and that's just where we've gone, and we love it there. But this is really a cool place. It's really kind of a glamorous church. I mean, you just imagine to be able to praise and worship up here, and all the lights and all the voices singing out to God. I mean, how awesome is that? And I heard there's a overflow room somewhere with a bunch of people there too. And sorry y'all can't be in here with us, but just kidding. No, it's we're glad you're here. And then I just found out you're, what do you call it? Streamlining, or what do you call it? Streaming something? Out there with 30,000 more people now. I'm a wreck now. I didn't know that the first time. Bad enough. Of course, there's 95,000 Screaming Georgia fans. Well, probably 90,000 Georgia fans and 5,000 of the visitors sitting off in the corner somewhere. But it could be glamorous. A lot of people think my job's glamorous. And it is at times. I remember my first dog walk going. It'd be like walking down this aisle right here, and all the fans on each side, all the families. the red coat marching band, the cheerleaders walking into the stadium and seeing the bridge overhead that looks out into the stadium and all the fans.
I said
you see
stadium.
the passion of the fans. I mean, it's very, very awesome. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy my job. There's no doubt about it. People ask me, what's your favorite part of your job? I say, number one, the dog pile. Like, what's the dog pile? I don't know if you remember us playing Alabama a few years back at Alabama when we won in overtime. Maybe you remember that? We threw one ball and Mikey Henderson caught the ball, and then the whole team jumped on top of him. They call that a dog pile. But and that's what the dog pile really is it's a celebration of a big victory, and every victory in our league's big. So we have a lot of fun in our locker room, jumping up and down and acting like little kids, and so that's a lot of fun. The other thing that's a lot of fun too for me is to give a scholarship to a walk-on. We've got so many walk-ons that come into our program. We have 125 guys on our team and only 85 are on scholarships. So there's quite a few young men that come because of the love of the game and because they love Georgia. And when one of them gets in position to be not rewarded with a scholarship, that's a lot of fun for me. But anyway, as glamorous as it might seem, sometimes it's not quite so glamorous. Sometimes it's not quite so fun. And has anybody ever heard of a thing called the coach's hot seat? Have you ever heard of that? Well, a couple years ago, we went 6-7, and if you don't know, 6-7, that's a losing record. And I've never experienced that before as a coach or a player. But anyway, we went 6-7. We had a losing season, and people get mad at that. I don't understand it quite. No, I do understand. You know, if you play in the Southeastern Conference and you don't win, it's not fun. And what happens is your seat gets warm. And they actually have a website that's called the Coach's Hot Seat. You type up Coaching Hot Seat in the rankings, and it's going to have 125 FBS coaches, which is Division I coaches. It's going to go 1 to 125, or however many teams there are. Okay? And the goal is not to be in the top 10. Okay? If you're in the top 10, your seat is like really high. As a matter of fact, if you're in the top 10, they have a picture of you across the front of the website. And they have these flames flying up around you. And, so it really does exist. And I really try not to look at that website, especially after a 6-7 season. But, you know, the thing that I have learned over the years is I really understand how bad it is when I go to church. Because when I go to church, I'll have people come to me and say, "Coach, we're praying for you." They don't know what to say to you. They're just like, "We're praying for you." I'm like, "Man, must be bad out there, huh?" And, or my mom will call crying because she's been looking at the dog vet all day. And said, "Mom, please don't read that." "Well, no, they say that about that." "Mom, just please don't tell me how bad it is." I just hate those records. I'm like, "Mom, it's okay." So anyway, it can get bad. Well, anyway, we had that 6-7 season, and the seat was pretty hot. And then we had our off season, and really during that 6-7 season, I had a great idea. We had an opportunity to add Boise State to our schedule the next year and play that Chick-fil-A kickoff in the Georgia Dome, right? So I was like, "Yeah, we'll do that because we're not doing very good this year, but we'll beat a top 5 team, number 1 game, and then number 2 game we play South Carolina. They'll be top 10. We'll beat those guys, you know, back to back, and we'll be in the top 10 ourselves, and now the seat won't be hot anymore." So I was like, "Well, that's a good idea." Well, did anybody know what happened? A couple fans here knew what happened. Well, we played Boise State, and sure enough, they beat us pretty bad. And by the way, they had about 13 guys go to the NFL draft that year. I want you to know they had some talent. So some people, "Oh, them boys, they didn't have no talent. They just kicked your butt." You know, well, no, they were pretty talented. And so anyway, they beat us pretty bad. And it wasn't much good I could say after that game. And then, but I'm thinking, you know what? We start the SEC, and if you win the SEC East and go play for the SEC championship, it's a happy year even if you lost to Boise State. So we got South Carolina the next week, and we play those guys. And I don't know if anybody saw that game, but I have a hard time remembering. Anybody know the score of that game? Something like 45-42. We did lose that game. But you know what? During that game, as many dumb things as we did, okay, as many mistakes that we made and basically helped them score. They were good. Don't get me wrong. They're very good. And they were doing their thing, but we were kind of helping them with interceptions for a touchdown and fake punt for a touchdown. And whatever else we did, fumbles deep in our territory. But what happened, every time we got behind the team, we came back. They took the lead, we came back. We really fought. And I saw a lot of really good things about that team, even though we lost. So when the game's over, if you're a coach, you know you got to go in that locker room and say something to the guys. So when I went in the locker room, I said, "Men, I'm really encouraged." And they're like, "What? We came from 6-7. Now we're 0-2, and you're telling me how encouraged you are." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Men, I'm encouraged because I see the talent we got. I see the fight we got. I said, we've got the ingredients to be an SEC championship team. I really believe we can run the table and play for the SEC championship." Now, the hot seat's a funny thing for coaches. Obviously, you can tell why a coach is on the hot seat. But I think we all, I call it the hot seat of life. I think we all go through that, don't we, sometimes? And really, the hot seat is really adversity. You're hitting adversity. The hot seat of life might be finding out that your wife has cervical cancer, like I found out about Catherine about 6 years ago. Or maybe one of your children is just struggling, you can't do anything to help. Or you lost your job. Or you lost all your retirement in some investment that went bad. Or whatever it was, you got a tough relationship going on with your wife. Or whatever it may be. You got a boss that you just can't handle. And we're all going through some type of adversity, some type of hot seat in life. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What do we do? Well, one thing we decided we're going to do as coaches is we're going to make the most positive atmosphere we could possibly have. We're going to stay positive. When our guys came to the Butts-Mehre building, which is our facility, we're going to make sure that we were, every part of our staff was, our custodians, everybody in that building, when they came in, our guys were going to be around a positive group. Because coaches, I could get up in the morning, go to the office, dig into the video, get the game plan, work till 11 o'clock at night, and go home and not even really feel it as bad, unless I want to listen to sports talk radio, or I want to look on the website, or I want to read the newspaper, which I don't during that time. When things are going rough, I'm not reading it. And I rarely read it anyway. But so we can kind of stay with it. But the players, they got to go to class every day. They can't live without social media, so they're hearing it, they're feeling it, they're getting tweeted this, they're getting Facebook that, or whatever it is. And so it's rough on those guys. So we want to make sure we stay very positive. And that's why I stayed positive in that locker room after the game. Because I could have started yelling and screaming and beating everybody down, but that wasn't going to do us any good. We had to stay together. Okay? We had to stay together. So number one thing, when you're hitting the hot seat, stay positive. Stay positive. And then number two, okay, number two is we stayed together. Like I just mentioned, we stayed united. It wasn't offense versus defense. It wasn't coaches versus players. Players weren't pointing their finger at the teammates, and coaches weren't pointing the finger at the players at all. We stayed united. And I think sometimes people think after a season starts really bad, you can call a team meeting. Hey, call a team meeting and let's get unified. And that doesn't happen that way. I mean, if things are going in the tank and you're not together, you're in trouble. The only thing that adversity does is it reveals to you whether you have a unified team or not. And praise God, we had some unity in that team. But that's one thing we've always cultivated at Georgia. We are going to stick together no matter what. That's what you got to do in relationships, and that's what you got to do when you're facing tough times. Because what happened was, if you didn't know, we won 10 in a row. And the questions early on with the media was, who's going to be the next head coach of Georgia after we're 0-2? How much is it going to cost to pay off this bum to get him out of here? His buyout, how big is that? And then at the end of the year, it was like, hey, I wonder if coach is going to get an extension. And who are we going to play in the SEC championship game? And what bowl game are we going to be in? And all that kind of stuff. Everything changed. So when I was meeting with the media prior to the SEC championship game, which, by the way, we played awesome until halftime. But anyway, they ask you questions. Coach, how'd you handle it? How'd you handle it? First they go, how'd you handle it with the team? And I said just what I said. We stayed positive with these guys. We didn't let the negative, we call it noise. All the negativity, we call it noise. Just men ignore the noise. Listen to what we say. Don't listen to what everybody else says. let's stay and let's stay together. I said, we're going to stay positive. We're going to stay together. We're going to believe in each other. And they said, well, Coach, how about on a personal level? How'd you handle that? Because some of those guys in that very room were giving me a hard time. And it feels like a personal attack, but in the reality, I think they're just attacking the position of head coach at Georgia. I think if I wasn't the head coach at Georgia, I don't think they'd be searching me out and saying mean things about me. Just like sometimes when you're a parent, okay? Sometimes you get it from your kids. Oh, well, my friends can do this, my friends can do whatever it is. You're gonna get criticized if you're in a leadership position and you're making a decision. You're going to get it. You're going to get criticism, but you know what? The credit belongs to the man of the arena. If you've read that, Theodore Roosevelt, the man of the arena. Just look that on the internet. It's worth reading. So anyway, but they said, well, how'd you handle the criticism, Coach, on a personal level? And I said, you know what? And this is what I love about the media. They ask the question, right? And then I get to answer it any way I want. And that's fun. And I said, well, I'll tell you how I handled it. I said, Jeremiah 17:7 and 8. And they said, what? I said, well, since you asked me, I'm going to tell you. And Jeremiah 17:7 goes like this. Blessed is the man whose trust is in the Lord, and whose trust is the Lord. And it goes on in verse 8, and it says, for he will be like a tree planted by the water, that extends its roots by a stream, and will not fear when the heat comes, but its leaves will be green, and it will not be anxious in the year of drought, or a 6 and 7 year. No, I'm just kidding. Nor cease to yield fruit. Now, how in the world did I get on that scripture? I got a phone call the summer prior, or the summer after the 6 and 7 season, from a guy named Chad Ward. Anybody know a guy named Chad Ward? Probably not many. Anybody ever heard of a guy named Charlie Ward? Charlie Ward was a quarterback at Florida State that I was blessed to coach, and from Thomasville, Georgia. And he was an awesome Christian brother. But anyway, I learned more from him than I did, than I could have possibly taught him. But he was the quarterback of a 1993 national championship team, won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, he was a phenomenal kid. But anyway, his brother was Chad, and I met Chad a couple times throughout recruiting, and maybe at some of the ball games and things of that nature, maybe at the Heisman Awards dinner and all that kind of thing. But I didn't know him well. Well, he called me that summer. He said, Coach, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I'm Chad Ward. I said, I do remember you. He said, I've been trying not to make this call for 3 months. But every night when I put my head on the pillow, God's been impressing on me to call you and tell you about a vision that I had. And I'm not going to get into the vision because I don't have enough time. But he kind of painted a vision. Basically, I was on the top of a stairwell. And little by little, I descended down. All the way down. And just one step from the very bottom. And I stopped, he said. And I just stood firm. He said, you stood firm. I said, okay, that's interesting. And then he said, but God also asked me to tell you to meditate on Jeremiah 17:7 and 8. So that's what I did that summer prior to when the seed really got hot. But anyway, I can't tell you how many times when things were going rough, I would just say, I trust you, God. I mean, the first verse says, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and whose trust is the Lord. And every day I'd just say, I trust you, God. No matter how bad it got, I trust you, God. I trust you. And just keep getting up and keep walking and keep doing your thing the best you can. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, do your work heartily unto the Lord rather than man. Whatever you do your work heartily. Heartily. It means do it the best you can and do it unto the Lord rather than man. And I love that part because I think, well, first of all, the scripture says to me that I think so many people are all worked up about what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? What's God want me to do? High school kids, college kids, even a lot of us as adults. What's God really want me to do? Well, I think God sometimes will ordain what you're going to do. But in this scripture, he says, whatever you do. And he wants to know how we're doing it. Do your work heartily. Do it the best you can. And do it unto me. Rather than man. What does that mean? Do it unto me. Well, it means that if I truly love God, I want to bless him with how I live my life. Okay, and I'm doing my work hardly unto him. Well, he sees everything, right? I mean, I got a ball. If you're only accountable to man,